Hi everybody. I know it's been a couple of weeks. I hope you're all doing really well, and that it's hard to believe that it's January. The weather is extraordinary here in Los Angeles. It's going to get to be, I think they said 79 today, and that's because of the Santa Ana winds, which are winds that come down from the desert and flow out toward the sea, if I understand correctly. That's why it's so warm, and it's also very dry. Yes. And this is usually the time of year. They featured a lot in that movie, The Holiday, with Jack Black and Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz and Jude Law. It's a pretty nice little movie. Although I don't think I would exchange my home with a stranger. I'd be too freaked out. So, I've had a lot on my mind. I don't want to talk about politics, but if you're a living, breathing human being using a municipal service or relying on things like traffic lights, that's all, underneath it all, inherently political. Political decisions were made. Taxes were paid. It's in the very, very basic of who we are, like it or not. And times are tough in the United States. There's a lot of chaos, as we all are aware. My heart goes out to the people of Minneapolis. I'm disgusted by that stuff that's going on there. The other day, I could hear the tamale lady again, and it was cold, so she was yelling tamale champurrado. And then when the Santa Anas came, she was doing tamales elote. So champurrado is kind of a chunky hot chocolate. A butt got in here. A chunky hot chocolate that you can only get when it's really cold. So even when it's on the menu, it's not on the menu if the weather's too nice. So yeah, I had it once. It has kind of a porridgey thing. I don't know if they put masa in there. I don't know what it is. It's a lumpy hot chocolate, which sounds disgusting. It's actually quite delicious. And to me, hearing the food vendors hollering out in Spanish is the sound of freedom, is the sound of safety. And it tells me that things have lightened up in Los Angeles a little bit, that there are areas where it's safe to be somebody who speaks Spanish and goes out and sells food out of a cooler, that's on top of a baby carriage. And I'm telling you right now, don't sleep on the tamales. I used to go to a laundromat near USC, because I went to USC, and every time I was there, this woman would come in with a giant cooler full of tamales, and they were $1 a piece. And I made sure to always buy one cheese tamale. Cheese tamales are very hard to come by because tamales are a lot of work, but try to make a tamale where you've got something that could ooze out from cheese tamales are tricky. So if somebody's brave enough to make them and proud enough to sell them, get on that, because that's going to be a good tamale. And it's going to be unusual. I avoid chicken in general. That's my own thing. But beef or pork, vegetable, there's great tamales to be had. And this is the time of year for them, really. But, that's part of the story of Los Angeles. That's part of the story of where I live, is these people who were here first, because California used to be Mexico, So let's calm down. Let's calm down, everybody. Why deport anybody? Why don't you just surrender the state back to Mexico? Problem solved, right? Yeah, and where's all that money gonna go? It's ludicrous. There's so much that's silly. And I was telling my mom that I've just decided not to get upset about it. It doesn't matter what things are called. I've decided that's all fantasy. It's all just idea, right? It's not tangible. I'm interested in the tangible. And what's tangible is the dirt beneath my feet. And I don't care what anybody called it yesterday. I don't care what they call it today. I don't care what they call it tomorrow. All day, every day, I call it home. And that's all that matters. So, everybody needs to calm down. I think there's a few people who need to be put in the naughty corner to think about themselves. They need to be put on timeout. I keep thinking about, because shocker, I'm a registered Democrat. And I keep thinking about what I'm looking for in my leadership. And I'm not looking for what Chuck Schumer is dishing out. I'm just not. It's, the finger-wagging and the gentleman farmer attitude. We don't have a gentleman in the White House. Politics is not gentlemanly. The courtly manners. We need a brawler. We need an MMA fighter. We need somebody who's willing to get in the ring and get bloody. And frankly, that's not Chuck. That's just not who he is. He says, you better vote with the right side of history or you're going to feel bad. The strongly worded letters, the finger wagging, it's the schoolmarminess of it is nonsense. And, I used to question the value of my writing. Why am I doing this? What is this good for? And I came back to stories are important because they instruct us. They tell us stuff. They help us identify things. And in the height of the Harry Potter stuff, mania, my friend's daughter apparently was very concerned about whether she was a good person or a bad person. She was very, very nervous about it. But Harry Potter taught her that you can have good or bad in you, and you get to choose what you want to do with it, who you want to be. And that all comes down to, Harry had a piece of Voldemort inside of him. He had evil inside of him. The Sorting Hat was willing to put him in Slytherin. But Harry wanted Gryffindor. Harry chose Gryffindor. So that gave her a lot of peace because she realized she could override her meaner instincts, which we all have them. But she got there because of a story, not because somebody sat down and said, therefore because, here's the outline, go and live a good life. She needed something to illustrate the concept for her. And right now, the story that I keep thinking about Tom Hagen, the consigliere from Godfather. And I invite Senator Schumer to have a movie night, pop up that popcorn. Maybe it's been a minute since you've seen The Godfather. But what we need right now is a wartime consigliere. And Tom Hagen is not a wartime consigliere. You know, Sonny yells at him, "God damn it, I wouldn't be in this mess if I had a wartime consigliere." When it's Michael's turn to take over the family and he's going to launch an attack, he sidelines Tom. He puts somebody else in charge, and it hurts Tom's feelings. He's very disappointed. He wants to do the job. He wants to be the guy. And it's the people around him who recognize that he doesn't have the killer instinct that way. Yeah, sure, he's probably the one who said, "Put the horse head in the bed." He's the one who ordered that up. But that's not who he is, you know? He still shows up, you know, when Pentangeli is before the congressional committee and they're interviewing him about the 5 families. Tom shows up with Pentangeli's brother. Tom is the one that talks to Pentangeli about, you know, what the good thing for the family would be. And then Pentangeli takes care of business under the watchful eye of being in FBI custody. That's where we are. Chuck Schumer is Tom Hagen. I do not question that he is sincere. I do not question that he could contribute to the fight that we have on our hands. But, God damn it, Chuck Schumer is not a wartime consigliere. And we would not be in this mess. He's a good person, I think. I don't know him personally. But I see what he gets outraged about. And, you know, we don't need people like those 2 Muppets who sit up in the boonies and criticize everybody. We don't need the Waldorf and Statler. You know, there's no sidelines and there's no taking turns. Like right now it's a Republican government and then next time it'll be a Democrat. No, you have to be in it all the time. You have to be throwing punches all the time. I never saw cricket before. When I was working at USC, there were a lot of Indian and Pakistani students, and they loved cricket. And the internet would just get choked because everyone was watching the matches. But you knew they only watched while their team was up at bat. When their team was on defense, the internet freed up. They would stop watching. They didn't watch defense, they only watched offense. And in the process, I learned I love cricket. It's a very enjoyable game. I get why people love it and why it's such an enduring sport. But I would ask you to look at the Aussies and the Kiwis. The Aussies and the Kiwis, they play offense. Sure, they're up at bat, but they play just as hard on defense. Because there's this moment that happens when you hit the ball and it rolls into the outfield. Depending on where it goes, they already know you got X number of points, X number of runs. They already know. Unless you get after that ball and you get on it before it can roll far enough for somebody to get 4 points. The Indians and the Pakistani, at the time, they may have changed their tactics. They just accept and they don't expend the energy to try and shorten the number of points, which to me is good defense. The Aussies and the Kiwis will run after that ball and try and stop it so they can reduce the number of points their opponent gets. The Democrats need to play the game like the Aussies and the Kiwis. And we've been playing it more in the style of the Pakistani and the Indian, where they just accept that this is how it is. They just accept it. The Republicans, I'm not saying all of them, I'm saying the ones that we hear from, the noisy ones. Tommy Lahren wanted to scold Biden because he was on vacation. How embarrassing for her. If you wanted him to be working, you should have voted for him. If you wanted him occupied with the business of business, you shouldn't have forced him into retirement. Now, I think it's good that he didn't run again. I mean, the Democrats need to get a hold of themselves. You know, they need to trust their constituencies. They're always interfering with the people's choice. They've been doing it since the 70s. And they wonder why, you know, the Democratic leadership wonders why the middle class has drifted away from them. The working class has drifted away from them. And it's because there's an elitism there. Let's have superdelegates. Because the people have chosen badly. Well, the people have chosen badly a couple times recently, and you didn't see the GOP stopping them. You know, it's nonsense. We are living a tremendous story right now, and there will be all the president's men of our time. There will be, you know, Manchurian candidates of our time. There will be movies and stories and books and songs that talk about what we're going through right now. We don't even know the scope of what we're going through right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all shakes out. Because here we are, was it the anniversary? It's Martin Luther King Day tomorrow. Or tomorrow? What day are we on? This weekend. It's his day, right? And one voice had such a huge impact on our country and our values and who we are and who we want to be and who we say we want to be. We're still celebrating the work this guy did. We're still telling his story. What story are they going to tell of us? These are the things that I'm thinking about. I didn't want to talk about this because I don't want this to be that kind of place. But honest to God, I had to get it off my chest. So if you're still here and you sat through all of that, thank you so much. I would like to promote stories of hope and peace, and we will get there from here. Have we decided what there is? Do we know what we want? Do we have a collective agreement that the future should look like XYZ? I think it's probably time to have those conversations. I think it's time to get clear. The truth of the matter is freedom is not free. Freedom takes work. And we got to start doing the work now. This is a garden that needs to be weeded. It needs to be tended. It needs to be planned. And there's a lot of heavy lifting ahead of us. But we're going to be okay. Because ideas are ideas. The tangible is tangible. So hug your loved ones. You know, give your pets a scratch, a little scritchy scratch, a little hug, a little treat. Enjoy what there is to enjoy. Celebrate your friends and your family. And we'll get through this somehow, you know. We will get through it. And if you're with me now, we're together. We are friends. And I have great hope for you. I hope you have great hope for me. And that's where we are. So go out there, have your weekend, and yeah. I will talk to you guys later. I'm shooting a more fancy style. You know, I promised I would do fancy style. I've got a plan for my first fancy style vlog, and I'm working on that. It's going to take me time because, you know, I've decided to approach it as if it was a college course. I've got to learn, I've got to adapt, and that's what I'm doing. So, whoa, well, that was unexpected. Are you still recording? Well, you are. You can see how messy the floor of my car is. Oh, no. All right, you guys. That's enough of that. I'll talk to you later. Bye.